What if the past isn't fixed and your most trusted memory starts shifting? My descent didn't begin with a monster, a ghost, or a scream. It began with a stain. It was on the wall in my home office, directly above my desk, just to the right of the obsolete rotary phone I keep for aesthetic reasons. A small, perfect blemish, about the size of a thumbnail, shaped roughly like a jagged, upside-down question mark. It was faint, a delicate shade of pale gold and brown, and in a room of pristine white, it was an offense. A tiny, glaring imperfection in my perfectly ordered life. I am a man who deals in absolutes, a forensic accountant. I live by dates, ledgers, and proof. Every number has a source, every event a placement in time. My world is neat, chronological, and verifiable. The stain was the first loose thread. I tried to clean it, but it resisted. It seemed part of the wall, not on it. So I decided to do what I do best. I documented it. I took a high-resolution photograph, dated the file, October 14th, 10:37 a.m. I noted its exact coordinates, 43 inches from the ceiling, 12 inches from the corner. It was, in my mind, a solved problem, an ugly, documented fact. 2 weeks later, I sat at my desk, my eyes drifting to the familiar blemish, but my breath hitched. The shape was wrong. It was no longer a jagged question mark. Now it was a precise three-pronged star, like a tiny asterisk. The color was deeper, a richer, oxidized rust. It wasn't the same stain, but it was in the same spot. I immediately checked my photographic record. The file for October 14th, 10:37 a.m. was still there. I opened it. The photo showed the original pale question mark stain. I looked back at the wall. Three-pronged star. The fear wasn't about the stain itself. It was about the discrepancy. My objective, dated photographic evidence, contradicted my current visual reality. And in my world, that was a catastrophic failure. I knew, in that precise moment, that I had stumbled into a psychological territory more terrifying than any ghost story. I had found a glitch in the single thing I trusted most, the fixed chronology of time. I began a rigorous experiment. I created a time-lapse system, setting up a camera dedicated solely to the stain, taking a photo every hour. I called the entire ordeal the chronological stain. The results were immediate and maddening. The stain didn't change predictably. One day, it would revert to the original pale question mark, but its position would be slightly lower, now 44 inches from the ceiling. The next morning, it would be a small, dark, perfect circle, and I would have a fleeting, absolute certainty that this particular iteration had been there months ago, a relic from the previous tenant. Then, the next day, the circle would be gone entirely, replaced by a faint, smudged smear of what looked like red lipstick, and I would feel a dizzying rush of memory. A forgotten birthday party, a glass of cheap wine spilled in a moment of reckless joy. But the memories felt borrowed. They didn't fit my narrative. I have never thrown a reckless party in that room. The problem grew exponentially. The stain was re-editing my past. I would look at the lipstick smear and suddenly, I'd be certain that the rotary phone wasn't obsolete. It was a crucial communication device I used every day for my work. I'd check the phone, see the dust, and the memory would crumble, replaced by the reality of my modern cell phone. The most terrifying instances were when the stain changed, and I had no memory of the previous version. The stain would be a complex geometric pattern, and I would spend an hour staring at the time-lapse folder, unable to locate a picture of the simpler version that I knew had been there yesterday. The file itself would be gone. My chronology was collapsing. If the objective past could be altered by a blemish on the wall, then how could I trust any memory? Did I really graduate on time? Did I sign that crucial contract last week, or was it tomorrow? The foundation of my existence, order, was dissolving into temporal chaos. My sanity was now tethered entirely to solving the stain. My desire was to find its origin point. Not the cause of the current shape, but the first cause of the entire cycle. I tore apart the wall. Using chisels and utility knives, I cut out the section of drywall, then the plaster, going deeper into the structure. My frantic search revealed layers upon layers of painted history, and with each layer, the stain was there, in a different form. On a layer of pea green paint from the 1950s, the stain was a large, aggressive splash of dark coffee. On the layer beneath that, rough, unpainted wood from the 1920s, it was a precise, circular scorch mark, like a lens had focused the sun. But the real terror struck when I reached the absolute original layer, the bare, structural beam from when the house was first built. The stain was not a physical mark. It was a hollow, a depression in the wood, about an inch deep, perfectly smooth, shaped like a tiny, inverted dome. It wasn't caused by anything spilling, it was caused by something pushing out. I pressed my finger into the smooth, concave hollow, my entire body seized. I received a flash, not of a memory, but of a raw event. I saw myself, not as a forensic accountant, but as a frightened boy, sitting in this very room, my back against the wall, weeping hysterically. The air was cold. The room was dark, and I was pushing with all my mental force against the wall, trying to escape a terror I couldn't name. I was a child, desperately trying to puncture the wall of reality to get out. My initial premise was wrong. The stain wasn't editing my past, it was a scar left by a trauma so profound that it had permanently warped the timeline surrounding it. The stain was not a flaw, it was the seam where my reality was patched together. My desire became a terrifying mission, to understand what I was running from as a child, because I was certain that thing was now on the outside, and the fluctuating stain was its way of finding the weakest point in my memory wall. I became acutely aware of the chronological shifts. They weren't just affecting the stain now, they were affecting the physical world. I would leave my keys on the counter but find them minutes later on the shelf, under a copy of a book I was certain I hadn't bought yet. I'd open my computer, and the files I completed yesterday would have their timestamps changed to 3 weeks in the future. The ultimate climax happened when I looked in my mirror. I saw myself looking back, but not in real time. The man in the glass was dressed in an outfit I hadn't worn in 3 days. He had a bandage on his hand that I didn't currently possess. I stared at him, and he stared back, his expression one of confusion. Then the man in the mirror opened his mouth and whispered, "You need to put the ledger back where you found it. It's too soon." Before I could react, the reflection shimmered, then went dark. When it returned, the man in the mirror was me, current, frantic. But on his hand, the bandage was there. I looked down at my own hand. It was bleeding, freshly cut. I had no memory of the injury. The reflection hadn't shown me the past or the future. It had shown me a parallel time stream where the events were running slightly ahead of mine. My mind, terrified by the constant re-editing, was pushing back. I could feel the tremendous psychic pressure emanating from the hollow in the wall. The stain was now a pulsating, wet, black void, and the air around it was growing cold. I ran to my safe, desperate to check the only thing that mattered, my current account ledger. It was a simple handwritten book of my finances, my life in numbers. I opened it, and the ledger was filled with handwriting that wasn't mine. Neat, precise, and meticulous, detailing debts I had never incurred, assets I had never possessed, and a date at the top of the page that was 2 years ago, but labeled as today. My chronology had officially been hijacked. I was living a life that wasn't fully mine, tethered to a timeline that was perpetually correcting itself to fit the trauma of the stain. I sit here now, back at the desk. The wall is patched, the stain is gone. I filled the hollow, sealed the drywall, and painted over it. The room is pristine, perfect, and sterile once more. The world feels orderly. The keys are on the counter. The date on my computer is correct. But I know the truth. The stain is not gone. It is internal. I am constantly questioning. Was that conversation an hour ago, or was it yesterday? Did I actually say those words, or was it the me from the parallel time stream correcting the timeline? I find small, unfamiliar objects, a ticket stub, an old coin, that have no place in my history, yet I know with chilling certainty that they are the remnants of the life I am not meant to be living. The horror is the uncertainty. The mind demands order, and I am now living in a constant state of chronological doubt. The greatest trauma was not what happened to the boy, but the resulting psychological erosion that forces me to perpetually doubt every single thing I experience. I am a forensic accountant who can't trust his own ledger. I am a man who can't trust his own memory. The mind is the battlefield, and my memory is the terrain that is constantly shifting. Think about your own life. You take for granted that yesterday happened before today. But what if you saw proof otherwise? What if that tiny scratch on your table appeared after you documented its absence? Tell me in the comments below. What is the one memory you are absolutely certain of, down to the smallest detail? Hold on to it. It might be the only anchor you have left. If this story made you question the order of events in your day, smash that subscribe button and join us at Psychological Chills. We are always looking for the next fault line in the human mind.